Recording in progress.
Okay. Board reconvenes.
Yes, for the time.
Time.
Time is 6:46.
The board has reconvened open session at 6:46 p.m. Item 6A, discussion action to approve the identified employment areas affected by the financial exigency and authorize the superintendent to apply the district's reduction in force criteria in accordance with board policy DFFA local. Mr. Grill.
Dr. Reyna.
At this time, Dr. Reyna will be having a presentation to go over the item.
President Martinez, members of the board, and Superintendent Grill. Thank you this evening. I intend, yes.
Do you have copies for us of this, or?
I do not,
Okay.
but we will make them.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I should have had those copies made for you. We'll follow along as we get started here. This is an opportunity for us to, and by the way, I'm Sylvia Reyna, and I'm the school district's conservator along with my co-conservator from TEA, Mr. John Hines. And this evening, what we want to do is basically discuss with you the framework that we will use in order to identify the employment categories and the organizational areas that may be subject to the reduction in force that you all approved at the last board meeting. And this process is designed to make sure that we are, as school district, fully compliant with the board policies, Texas law, and certainly the resolution that you all adopted. And we have an executive purpose here, and I want to very explicitly share this because I think it's important that the district know that what we're trying to do is to align the personnel expenditures with the current fiscal realities while maintaining an educational services that are necessary to improve the student achievement of the district. So when you look at the process, we want to basically establish that we are legally compliant and operationally sound with those processes, those reduction in force processes. We want to make sure that the staff is aligned to the fiscal realities of the system and the academic priorities that have already been set for us to reach those goals. And again, to preserve the instructional services. I've spoken to you about that, and certainly that's what we want to make sure is that we're protecting the instructional services that we provide for our students. And we want the public to feel comfortable that we are ensuring transparency and making sure that it is objectively, the decisions that we make are objective, and that we can defend these should anyone ask us to show our work to them. So that is how we're operating, and just a familiar kind of boundaries that we are existing under. Also, our next slide is to discuss what is the legal and policy foundation for what we're and how we're making our decisions. And all we did here was cite all of the sources of information that are guiding our decisions, everything from the Texas Education Code to what is our intervention authority as conservators, also your policy of DFFA, and then the fact that you did adopt the financial exigency and the reduction in force. And so we also want everyone to understand that we want to follow all of the federal employment protections that every employee is afforded, such that there are also no discrimination of any employee, and that we're following all those anti-discrimination laws. So that's just the foundation for us. And I think the public should know, and certainly you all are fully aware, that why must the district proceed in this way? There has been significant fiscal instability, and it's threatening the long-term solvency of the school system. We also need to preserve payroll sustainability and operational continuity, which means that we have got to pay the employees that give us their time every day under contract and or agreement, and also make sure that we can operate consistently throughout the entire school year. We also have a need to focus in on the fact that we have repeated academic underperformance, and it really requires that we source those issues. So for us not to spend the kind of money on other things that might not necessarily be impactful on the instructional program, but that we focus those monies in the instructional program. And that in our case at Crystal City, we're looking to organizational restructuring such that we are efficient and that we are effective. You all, as is known, have the fiduciary responsibility and duty for the district operations, and we want to make sure that we're presenting to you a viable plan that you can feel comfortable as board members voting for as it is presented. The key reason why we are also here is the academic performance of the school system. We want to improve the performance, and I will say this at every board meeting because I want the public to really understand this. We have to improve the performance at Benito Juarez Elementary School for the repeated F ratings, and we need to get the school to a C or better in a very short amount of time. So again, that tells us how we have to focus our funds. Also improving the district rating from the D that we currently have to a C or better also very quickly. Protecting what we call high quality tier 1 instruction. That is, what is that instruction that every day the students arrive and sit in those classrooms? What is the quality of the instruction that they're getting in that classroom when they're with that teacher and getting that direct instruction? We want that to be high quality. Prioritizing intervention systems and STAR tested areas. We have to ensure that we identify the students that need the support, that we provide the programs to provide that support, and that we are focused in on the students being able to show and demonstrate what they've learned through the interventions that have been provided. We also want to make sure that we're aligning our staff to the student achievement priorities so that we're not heavy, for example, in central office and we're short at the schools, because it needs to be flipped, that we need to be supportive and have a strong foundation on the campuses, and perhaps it's the strain a little bit more on central office to do a little things differently if we need to. But it's really all about the academic urgency that we need to have. Mr. Hines and Superintendent Grill and I have really decided on what are those guiding principles that are what we're using to make decisions. And look at this. Students come first in all of our decision makings. Every decision we ask ourselves, how is this decision going to affect the students sitting in that classroom? If it is a negative, then we have to look at it. If it is neutral, okay, good. Maybe this is something that we can look at to guide our decisions in making cuts or readjustments. Preserving the core instructional programs. What are those instructional programs that every student should expect to have and be high quality? And we want to ensure that we're doing those basics. When you think about reading, writing, arithmetic kinds of things, those are the core instructional programs that we want to make sure that is high quality. Use of objective and documented criteria. We are keeping copious notes about every time we meet. What is it that we're doing? How is it that we're approaching everything in an objective way? And how is it that we are also reporting to TEA and TEA providing their expertise and guiding us to help us guide you in decision making? First, another area of super importance to us is to maintain legal compliance and fairness. We want to make sure that we're not ever going to bring you anything that goes against those rules and regulations and certainly the laws that govern public school systems in the state of Texas. And we want to make sure that at the end of the day that we have operational sustainability, that we can operate our school system providing a quality instruction, raising the scores that we need to raise, providing that high quality instructional program, and be sustainable for more than just this year. So some of those what we call those initiatives that we're going to provide for you or suggest to you are certainly going to be more long lasting than just the 1 year to get us out of whatever state that we're in. So we have divided our process into phases. And our first phase was financial analysis. How is it that we got to where we're getting, or where we got, and how is it that we're going to get ourselves out of it? So we have reviewed the deficit projections and cash flow. We're analyzing the staffing, expenditures, and the benefits provided for every employee. We're determining the required savings target that we have to shoot for, and I think that everyone needs to know that we need to create a surplus budget, not a balanced budget and not a deficit budget, but we have to provide a surplus budget when we adopt that in September, because that is the state of the financial situation in the school system. We also need to review enrollment trends and staffing ratios. So we call that right sizing. So we want to right size that we have the right number of students in the classroom and that the proportion or the staffing is appropriate for the kind of class that it is. And we have to make decisions about how we staff. And then we also want to identify multi-year sustainability goals. So not only are we looking at this financially for this year and how do we recoup this year in savings and how do we generate revenue, but how do we project ourselves to be successful for the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, knowing that we're going to have to identify sources of revenue and also places of being efficient and effective, which mean necessary cuts to that. Phase 2 in our review is program and service. So again, looking at the instructional programs and the courses that we offer. Are there any courses that we currently offer that we may have just a handful of students in that perhaps might be better suited to a part-time teacher versus a full-time teacher? All of those kinds of decisions we'll be looking at each one of those. Evaluate low enrollment electives and duplicative services. Again, this is looking at program quality, program delivery, such that we provide that high quality instructional program, but that we're not excessively funding a program that may not be for the good of the all or have higher numbers of enrollment. Analyze the operational departments and central office structures. So when we talk about an organizational chart, when we talk about how do we staff a school with, what structures do we put in place? A principal, a counselor, an assistant principal, clerks, et cetera. What is the most effective way to do that? How is it that we're going to ensure that we are not damaging the instructional program, but that we're also not being inefficient with our personnel structure? So looking at the organizational chart of central office as well as each campus and each department. Assess the grant-funded positions for sustainability. So what if we get a grant, a person has a program, we start the program and the grant's for 1 year, what do we do next year? How do we fund it? Do we continue it? What do we do? How do we make sure that whatever we offer is something that is sustainable should that grant funding be no longer available to the school system? And then at the end of the day, we also want to look at determining the impact on student outcomes. Everything is student-centered when we talk about not only the fiscal analysis, but now we're looking at the program and the service review. So we're being very diligent about this process that we follow. The next area is where we come to you all as the board to look at the employment areas and how we identify what employment areas are we hoping to look at and adjust, modify, et cetera. So when we look at those, if you see there are 5 main areas. Yes, we do need to look at elementary and secondary staffing allocations. And let me give you an example. So for example, if you have a second grade classroom has 23 students in second grade. It's just an example. And the law says that students in kindergarten through 4th grade have a ratio of 1 teacher for every 22 students. But you have 23. That doesn't comply with what the law says. Do we then split those, hire another teacher, and you have so many in one class and so many in the other class? Or do we leave them with 1 teacher and do we apply for a waiver from the state for the 1 additional student? What's the most efficient and effective way to handle that is probably to look at that to be fiscally responsible. So then we say that for elementary, we also have secondary staffing allocations that we look at. If you have 20 students in a classroom, but you could have 25 in that classroom and not have a second teacher, should we make that kind of a decision? Again, what's the course? Who are the students? How is it that we can best deliver that instructional program? Career technology program, technical education programs. Career technology programs are expensive, but they are also very useful and necessary within a high school so that students can explore what they might be interested in. So we want to make sure that we are being judicious, that we don't have a very, very high cost program with very low enrollment, because those kinds of anomalies will cause us to spend more money in a program that might not be very viable, and we might need to look at that program. Administrative and support positions. Again, how are we staffed administratively? Not only at our campuses, but in central office and support programs. So looking at absolutely every area. Fine arts, athletics, and electives. We have to think creatively about how we offer these because this is a vital part of a student's education. We don't want to cut those kinds of programs that we know that many times that's why students come to school. It's because they want to be involved with the fine arts, or they want that elective, or they want to participate in athletics. And we don't want to ever squash that or just, turn out the light there for those students. But we have to think about different ways that we might go about that. Fine arts, can we combine classes? Can we have a teacher that might teach English, but she's also certified to teach three-dimensional art? I'm just throwing that out as an example. Can we maximize the talent that we have to be able to afford the courses and to minimize personnel? When we talk about athletics, we want to look at different opportunities to provide students with the opportunities for athletics, but perhaps not necessarily having the school district bear all of the cost of providing them. Looking at the number of tournaments, looking at the number of options, those that are the required games versus those that are not the required games. All aspects of these programs are areas that we want to look at. And it may impact the employment areas because we may not need, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but we may not need 25 coaches to do X, Y, Z. I'm just saying that. I don't know that that's the correct number. But we might be able to be more efficient in that area too. And then we also look at district-wide and campus-specific restructuring. We're looking at being more efficient with our personnel, being more efficient with our spending, but now we also have to look about being more efficient with our facilities. It costs a lot of money to run a plant, a school, everything from electricity to water to just all of the expenses of staffing a separate location with the organizational chart, meaning principal, assistant principal, counselors, etc. So can we be efficient with the physical plant that we have to reconfigure our elementary schools? So can we bring them together physically and then save money in facilities? Again, that might mean that in consolidation of that school or reconfiguring that school, we may not need as many personnel there. So when we talk about employment areas, and this is where we really are wanting to come to you to say, everything is pretty much on the table, but not everything will be considered. Not everything will be touched simply because we have our guiding principles that are going to guide us such that we're not hurting any kind of instructional program. Questions? You just stop me anytime because I can go 100 miles an hour. Okay, so let me go on to phase 4, compliance and validation. We want to make sure that when we identify individuals or personnel, that we are looking at the proper criteria that's set forth in our policies. So we want to make sure that we have a human resources review of the certification and the contracts. As I said, if you have an individual that is certified to teach English and doesn't have a full load of English, can that person teach something else? Could they teach public speaking and debate? Can they teach whatever? So how is it that we look at matching what the individual has the capacity to, and the certification to teach, such that we can take advantage of that to offer the students what we need? Legal review of all of our policies, academic review for accountability, impacts, protected employee group analysis, and documentation and audit. This is that phase 4 is, have we checked all our boxes? Have we checked absolutely everything? Are we doing everything in the right way before we actually bring it to you for any further board action, or we actually go through with the notifications? So we have 3 of us that are consistently working on it, but the support staff, when we talk about finances, Mr. Velasquez has been a jewel to be able to help us identify those things, or we have the Human Resources Department or the Special Ed Department, whatever has been made available to us, whoever we need to be able to make those kinds of decisions. So we then want to talk about the next step, and that's board action. And I know that I talk a million miles an hour, but I know that it's also late. We want to make sure that the superintendent's recommendations, that the board has those or reviews those. Right now, it's the approval of the employment areas that are subject to the reduction in force, authorization of the implementation and timeline, pretty much laying out what we're doing, the delegation of the administrative authority to the superintendent, and then again, your responsibility as governance oversight, and for us to also oversee and monitor the expectations. So that is the decision-making criteria. That is our internal document that we basically check. Are we looking at the academic impact? Are we looking at whether or not it's legal? Are we going to have financial savings in it? Are we following good enrollment numbers and trends? Is it really necessary? And what's the program participation and sustainability? This next area is really important because I want you to realize what we're talking about, programs that we're recommending to protect. We certainly want to protect our special education compliance services. We want to make sure that our bilingual ESL staffing are those that have specific certifications that we need for our students. We want to make sure that we're protecting those programs, making sure that the core tested subject areas are also protected and those teachers, reading and math interventions, critical safety and transportation functions, and high-performing instructional staff. Please know that this is our guiding light to help us know that these are the kinds of programs that we're going to want to make sure that we are not going to, what I call, do harm to. Required documentation. These are all the areas that we are going to keep documentation so that at the end of the day, they are audit ready. We have evidence binders, and should anyone question why we made a decision, we'll have a very plausible and very defensible that we can stand behind the decisions that we've made. Let's just put it that way. And then here's our recommended timeline. We have been working very fast, very seriously because of the season that we're in. We want to make sure that individuals know what's going on so that they can make decisions. So at first we did the fiscal analysis and the staffing review, program review and employment area identification. That's where we are. Next is to make sure that we have legal and board authorization, and next board meeting we'll be bringing forth contracts for those individuals that are Chapter 21 contracts. Then we take up notifying the employees once those decisions have been made. And then should there be any appeals or staffing adjustments or monitoring that we have to make, we'll make that the following week. So you're talking about a very compressed amount of time to get all of this done, but we're working very diligently on all of this. And so I present this to you just knowing that final recommendation. We proceed immediately with identifying the employee categories. We maintain that full legal and compliance criteria that we've set. We prioritize student achievement. We ensure transparent and defensible, I knew it was not defendable, defensible decision-making, and we stabilize the district finances and the academic performance of the district. So in a nutshell, that's why we're here, is to ask you for that approval of the employment areas and to inform you of our processes and to ensure that the community knows what we're doing in all transparency. And if you have any questions, we're here to answer those.
Yes. One questions I have, you said we're on week 2, right, of their timeline. What were some of the findings for week 1 of the fiscal analysis and staffing review? See overstaffing?
To be very, very candid about it, what we were looking at in the fiscal analysis is the fund balance. It's recommended that you have 2.5 months of payroll within your fund balance should anything ever happen. That does not exist. We have looked at the excess in invoices that have not been paid. That is concerning. The fact that there are no internal controls on the expenditures at various cost centers. And I say cost center meaning a department or a school, et cetera, et cetera. Talk about the realization of there just isn't the financial, there's not the financial situation that you would want to see in a school district. So that's why all of these measures are in place, or we're recommending all these measures.
I don't know, are you comfortable with giving a target number of what we're looking at in terms of consolidating programs or campuses, or, you know, what that looks like? How much does that cost the district or save the district?
Well, I think that what we are shooting for is to collectively make a decision such that we have a surplus budget of at least $6 million. So what is that going to translate into? It's going to translate into a lot of these cost-cutting measures that we've talked about. Just think about, restructuring a elementary school. Instead of having two principals or three principals, you have one principal. Think about all the personnel that go with just the management of a campus. So when you put that paper to pencil, pencil to paper, you're probably around $700,000 alone there. So you're starting to make a dent, and I'm just telling you these numbers, just they're preliminary. So please don't take those as solid numbers. But those are the kinds of things that we're looking at. So again, everywhere that we can find an efficiency, we're going to take it, but with the guiding principle that we don't want to harm the instructional program. We want to redirect our focus there.
I guess at what point during the timeline will you have those numbers that, to say that the cuts we are making a dent, that we're not cutting 10,000 instead of $1 million, if it's up there for grabs or.
Well, we have some preliminary pencil, but again, until we knew what areas were going to be approved, we didn't want to do too much counting on, because again, that's the decision of the board. But we've already started in looking at those areas because we also know some people are retiring. We also know that some people have already said that they're not coming back. So those are automatic kinds of, okay, let's look at that area. Can we save there? Because again, we don't want to turn the system completely upside down. We want to be as judicious as possible. So are we going to be working this week and next? We're bringing Chapter 21 contracts to you next week. So we'll be working fast and furiously on that.
And when you're saying that you're bringing Chapter 21, there might be some Chapter 21s that are in the list to be eliminated.
Yes.
So not all Chapter 21s are going to come for approval. It's
Correct.
whatever you see that will work better for like especially the consolidation of one of the campuses with the others, and maybe one principal, maybe a vice principal or two.
Yeah.
Counselor.
Right. Any other questions? Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rona.
So at this time, I guess we have a motion.
I motion to approve I motion to approve the identified employment areas affected by the financial exigency and authorize the superintendent to apply the district reduction in force criteria in accordance with board policy DFFA local.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion? Any questions? I guess the one question I have, will this presentation be able to be placed online or so that they can see it, or part of the, I guess, on the policy or board agenda or board book that we use?
So what I've talked to Anna about is we're going to start posting our handouts, and we can post this PowerPoint also on our website where people go to see the agenda. It won't be in the board packet because it's the program we use, but we can post these as a PDF document.
Okay. Right. At this time, we'll take a vote. All in favor? All against? Motion passes 5-0. Item 7A, discussion and action to approve a resolution authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of Crystal City Independent School District Maintenance Tax Note Series 2026 and approving other matters incident and related thereto.
Mr. Velazquez?
Good evening. What you've got before you is the letter. This is as recent as this afternoon
The prime,
from Prime Bank. They're one of the banks that we shared with you the last time we met, and it might be on the Zoom, I'm not sure.
Are they on the Zoom link or? No?
Okay. They had offered to be there in case we had questions. Primarily what you see is the latest as of today, this afternoon. We had a Zoom meeting along with the financial advisors, our bond counsel or loan attorneys, Mr. Juan Aguilera from Samian Ponic. Dr. Reyna was present, and so was our superintendent, Mr. Grill. What you see before you is simply a summary of the arrangements or the agreement that you'll find in the document that Mr. Aguilera will present to you. The loan has gone from a 7.25 to a 7% interest. They're requesting that we establish an account with their bank, which will secure our proceeds, our tax proceeds, in other words, securing the note, which is acceptable to us. They'll also provide us with interest. It'll bear interest while it sits there by the time that the payments are made. We'll also have access to that account to draw from it as we need to. The initial deposits will come in hopefully by the middle of this month, which is maybe next week. And we'll draw approximately 1.5 million to make payments and so forth down the road and the month after that, simply to secure our payroll and some other maintenance operation items. You'll see there the third-party fee will be incurred. Simply their attorneys or legal department will incur that cost. Processing fee is about $1,295. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to entertain. You'll see a schedule in the back. General schedule of the drawdowns. We won't take all the money up front. We'll take them in portions as we need it, which in turn will save us interest. We don't start accruing interest until we take those funds into possession. Our first payment will come in December, and you'll see the number there, approximately $1 million. In January, we'll have another one, February, and then we'll close in March. We made good on the last loan that we got. It was much smaller than this. And we anticipate, or the district anticipates, meeting their responsibility the same way as they did the last one.
Can you give a little bit more information on the account to secure? It's not for us to have them as our depository or.
No, sir.
Right?
No, sir. We have other banks. We have actually Lone Star Investment and two others that escape my mind right now that where we can transfer funds to. If you think back at the reports that you got recently, there's about 3 other banks where we've got some small amounts in or larger numbers, but this is simply as a safety measure for this bank. We have access to those funds as well. We anticipate also opening another account with that bank simply to do as a clearinghouse. The funds that come from there, we can also make their payment and transfer over to our banks. They're asking us to leave the funds there and they'll match the funds that we would earn or the interest we would earn at Lone Star Investment, which is not a bad idea. I would save us some time and effort.
I have a quick question. So the numbers did change. As we noticed, you mentioned that it's different now from the last time. I think last time was around three something. Does that mean that we don't need the other?
Yes. I'd like to have one bill, not too many bills. And I'm sure our superintendent concurs, and so does the office.
What necessitated this is when we were talking with Zavala Bank, they wanted to get an attorney general opinion, and it was just going to delay getting the funds. And we need the funds by May 15th. And so Prime stepped up and said they were willing to loan us the full amount. It is a convenience only having one bank to pay instead of 2.
Yeah.
But it was really about the necessity of just getting the funds here so we could make payroll happen.
No, that's fine.
Where, yes, sir.
On the Attorney General, wasn't the loan that we approved last year for 2 years?
That letter from the Attorney General was as such, I think, originally, but the Attorney General's letters are simply an opinion based on a formula and the amount of money borrowing. We exceed that formula, but we'll still pay within a year.
So we have to go, but
No, we don't have to at this time because we've got to meet the criteria of 1 year. And we plan to pay it within that term. Mr. Aguilera can explain a little bit further in detail regarding the order. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Good evening. My name is Juan Aguilera with the law firm of Escamilla and Ponick, and as you know, we serve as the district's bond attorneys. So, you know, this then exclusively just with finance is what, when you see me come here. So that is a very good question on the tax, on the Attorney General's opinion. We generally will see an Attorney General's opinion where they will review the transcript. In this case, the Education Code provides that if you're going to borrow money for 1 year, you do not have to go through the Attorney General's office. So here we're faced with a situation. Number one, Prime Bank requested that the loan be tax exempt. If federal tax laws say that if you're borrowing money for current needs, which payroll and maintenance and operation type of expenses, if you go more than 1 year, if you go 2 years, then it has to be a taxable loan. So in order to be able to do a tax exempt loan, then we would be required to be able to do it in 1 year, payable in 1 year. That also means less interest that you will have to be paying. Another thing that we were considering, or the district was looking at, is that if we go through the Texas Attorney General's office, then they require 10 business days to be able to review the documents and to be able to get their approval. And that also now takes more time. So again, we had two things. One, the bank wanted tax exempt financing, and then from your side, from your perspective and the discussions we've had, you want to be able to get the money as soon as possible. So that's the way it is. But our job, and we will, and the bank will require that we give an opinion, which we will, a legal opinion that says that the loan is, number one, authorized by law. You're doing something that's within the law. And then the second thing is that it's a binding obligation. Banks want to know that. They want to make sure that if they're going to loan you the money, you have a legal and binding obligation to pay them back, which I know you will. And so those are the dynamics that are involved with the financing. Last time again, and again, it's just like when you go to the bank, you want to borrow money, it's what you can be able to negotiate. The bank, we had told the local bank here last time around that it was not a requirement to go through the Attorney General's office because it was something that you're going to pay within a year. They opted that they wanted to do that. So that's them. Prime is asking that they get tax exempt financing. So that's what we have done. In essence, what we've done, from the discussions we've had in the past with Mr. Velasquez, your staff, and I've gone over some of the discussions with the bank. There's been very little changes other than what Mr. Velasquez was saying. You're looking at a 7% loan. There's going to be 3 disbursements. There's going to be one that is going to be done in May. May, we're hoping, that's the other thing, we're hoping to be able to close around May 13th. And hopefully, and I'm going to ask Mr. Velasquez, I know that the district will want to make sure we push as hard as we can to make sure that we can get the money as soon as possible. That's very important. So, and from what they have in their letter, and I'm reading here, it says that the bank is pleased to offer a $4.5 million short-term note with the following conditions, and they have in here one of the payments being made, one of the disbursements being May 13th. You know, we hope that is something we could be able to do. And in our discussions that we had with them today, the telephone call, they seemed and they came across as wanting to make sure that they're cooperating, they want to help, but they're also business people. You know, they want to make sure that their loan is going to be sufficiently secured and something that they will now feel comfortable in going out and helping the district. And I know that I heard Irwin over, we want to help the district, so that's good. So the way it's, as Mr. Velasquez pointed out, we have incorporated the terms into the note here that we have. And this is similar to what we did last year, which is 1 year term. However, now obviously we're talking about a larger amount, 4.5 million versus 1.4 last time. Also, the other thing, as I was addressing, there's going to be 3 disbursements, and as Mr. Velasquez said, the way the bank offered, and we've incorporated into the document here, the note, is that interest will accrue from when you receive the money. So instead of having to pay interest on 4.5 million from day one, you're only going to pay interest on the money as you receive it. So that, for example, on closing, let's assume that we're going to be able to pay 13. The district will receive $1.5 million. You're going to start paying interest from that day on that time. And then the interest will start accruing from that time. The next scheduled payment or disbursement that's going to be made to the district is going to be June the 12th. Then at that time again, now you owe $3 million, so then you'll be paying interest on that $3 million, and so forth. So that's a good thing that we have overall with this loan. That is about it, unless there's any questions that you might have on the legal side that I may be able to address, and I'm happy to address that now.
My only question is, there isn't anything within the terms that state, they're lending us the money in lieu of changing depositories or anything like that, right? Or any?
No, but they put it in here in this is their offer to you. They put it in their letter, and that's something we will discuss with them. And if that's your pleasure, that's what you said, fine, we'll do that. We'll make sure that it's incorporated into either into this document or another document, because it's more from the perspective of the bank. They want to make sure that you follow here what they have offered, if you decide to do that.
Anybody have any questions?
So what we have with you, we have prepared, like we did last time, the resolution, and if it's the pleasure of the board, a motion to accept the resolution as presented, I think would be in place. I would also recommend that the motion also authorize the superintendent to be able to make any kind of last minute changes that may be needed. The 4.5 million is solid. That's not going to, that will not change, because that's what you're authorizing today. The 7% is not going to change. That's what we have in here. Well, I'm saying it's not going to change because it would require us to come back to you again. But for right now, just so that any signatures, anything that needs to be done, that you may authorize the superintendent, and any last minute things that they might look at. One of the things right now, we got May 13th, but they might come back and say, well, can we do it on the 15th? Then you allow the superintendent to be able to do that. But I know that Mr. Grill and Mr. Velasquez, and we certainly will try to get the money as soon as possible. So if you could also include in the motion saying adopt the resolution as presented, and also authorize the superintendent to be able to negotiate or authorize things that are going to be required for the loan.
No questions? No. What's the recommendation of the district?
It is.
A motion to approve a resolution authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of Crystal City Independent School District Maintenance Tax Note, Series 2026, and approving other matters incident related to, and authorize the superintendent to make any changes if needed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? All against? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much, and
Thank you, Juan.
you all have my number. I know I've talked to some of you in the past, I know Mr. Velasquez has my number, and I'm happy to help in any way we can.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? All against? Motion passes 5-0.